Fishers for the Kingdom, third Sunday in time, Year B. In today's Gospel passage from Mark, Jesus invites two brothers who are fishermen, Simon and Andrew, to follow him. Jesus does so by telling them, asking them, inviting them, "Come after me. I will make you fishers of men." This terminology, fishers of men, also appears in the Old Testament. In a famous prophecy of Jeremiah, Jeremiah prophesies the restoration of Israel, when God will gather all of the lost tribes back into a new, restored Israel. Jeremiah prophesies by saying, "Behold, I am sending for many fishers, says the Lord, and these fishers will go out," Jeremiah says, "and catch them, will bring back the lost tribes of Israel into a new, restored Israel." This prophecy from Jeremiah might, according to Petrie, explain why Peter or Simon and Andrew immediately dropped their nets and followed Jesus, because they wanted to directly help to bring about the restoration of the country, the nation, the people they love, Israel. And they wanted to end Roman rule, which they found exceedingly oppressive. However, Simon and Andrew, were constantly surprised by Jesus' way of suffering love to bring about the restoration of Israel. Even after Simon's name is changed to Peter in Matthew chapter 16, Peter still tries to dissuade Jesus from following the way of suffering love, from going to Jerusalem where he will be condemned by the elders and suffer and even be killed. Jesus responds to Peter by telling Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me, for you are not on the side of God, but on the side of men." Perhaps, if Peter had been a better listener, he would have been more likely to accept Jesus' plan. Because Jesus didn't just say that we'll go to Jerusalem to suffer and be killed. Jesus said, "I'll go to Jerusalem to suffer, be killed, and," this is the part that Peter may have missed, may have not listened to, "and I will be raised on the third day." Yes, there is suffering, there is death, but that is the way for Jesus to triumph. That is the way for Jesus to restore a new Israel through his resurrection after he suffers, after he dies on the cross. This suffering love that triumphs in the resurrection, we participate in. For the kingdom of heaven has begun on earth and was begun by Jesus Christ. Where is this kingdom? Where do we see signs of it? We see signs of it in the church, in a sacramental sense. The church is called to be a sign of a sacred reality, of an invisible reality. We are called to be windows into heaven. That's what a sacrament is. Windows into heaven. We're called to be a sign of a reality that is here but not yet in its full state. St. Paul, in his second letter, the second reading for today, in his letter to the Corinthians, first letter to the Corinthians, gives us one way to be, practical way, to be a good sign of the heavenly kingdom in this world, to be a good sacramental sign of this invisible reality of heaven that intersects with this world. St. Paul says this. First, he reminds us that this world, in its present form, is passing away. And then he says that even those who have wives, who have husbands, should act as if they're not having them. He doesn't mean for us to interpret that in an excessively strict way, as if people need to suddenly pretend they don't have wives. No, of course not. Or pretend they don't have husbands when they actually do. He means not to be excessively attached to our wife or a husband for those of us who are married, because they cannot give us, they cannot satisfy our hearts, which are created for a love that is infinite. They're only called to be signs of God's infinite love that passes through them. But to expect that my wife or someone's husband can give them that infinite love that they yearn for is asking too much from a created person. Only God, the uncreated God, can give us what our hearts desire. If I expect that any person or any material good will satisfy my heart, which desires not just love, but eternal love, I will always be disappointed. The more we see all of creation, all of people as signs, multiple signs of God's eternal love, as ways by which God sends His truthful eternal love to us, then the more we will be able to enjoy the people of this world and the creatures of this world without expecting and hoping that they can give us more than they can. Only God and His eternal love can satisfy our restless hearts, as St. Augustine so beautifully says in his Confessions. God bless.